Welcome to Left, Right, and You with Tim Elins and Paul Edwards. They're talking current events, politics, local, state, and federal. Now here's Tim Elins and Paul Edwards and Left, Right, and You.
Hello. Hi, Paul. How are you?
What's
going on?
I am.
Glad you could make it.
I'm good. Well, you know what? I got stopped in the hallway prior to our show to discuss how the media is owned by 4 people and all that good stuff. Because, Karen's very, very insightful. We should have her be a guest one of these days.
What 4 people own the media?
She didn't name which ones, but, it is controlled. There's a certain amount of control in the media.
Who controls us?
We're
media.
Well, no one controls us. We are the last bastion of humanity on the air. Okay. Tish is laughing at she did not expect to hear last bastion at all today, did you, Tish? Lean in a little bit and talk loud, Tish.
Coming on your show, I'm not surprised at anything I hear.
Have you listened to our show, Tish?
Absolutely.
And you still came on?
Absolutely.
What is wrong with you? No.
Voice of Elgin. Well, I'm sorry, but the owner has come by a couple times and said you guys do great radio. So has he ever told you what to say? I don't know.
No. Because we all know how I follow authority. You tell me the sky's blue, and I'm going to argue it, even if it happens to be blue that day.
That's what I put up with, Tish. So,
are we still on the air?
Yes. Yeah,
okay, because I just lost everything in my ears.
For 4 minutes here.
I can't hear myself in my headphones at all.
It's not a bad thing.
Went dead. No, it's there. That sounds better. Now it's good for you.
Mine on, huh?
No, you don't have to.
Well, I don't have mine on.
You'll be fine.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, we're taking calls today, right? You're going to take calls? You want to introduce our guests?
Sure. We have Tish Powell joining us today. She is running for the Elgin City Council. Welcome, Tish.
Thank you, Paul.
Where's the applause? No applause.
Applause, please.
Applause.
Dave,
Applause,
you're falling down
Dave's
on us.
Fell out. He usually applauses. I'll have to go to my syncs on applause.
All right, I'm going to jump right into a couple of quick questions. And that is,
do you want everybody to get the flowers?
Yeah, they can call 847, what is it, 931-1410?
Very good.
Okay.
You get an AM.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Tish, currently there are no women on the city council. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And there are also no people of color.
There is one person of color on the council right now. That would be Councilman Bob Gilliam.
Okay. And
Italian?
You are, and now Elgin is a very diversely populated city.
Absolutely.
And do you feel that it's important that there be some diversification for a woman's voice and perspective and a person of color's perspective to be added to the city council?
I definitely think it's important to have different perspectives on council, and not just in terms of gender or race, but also in terms of where people live in town, different backgrounds. It's important to serve the entire community, but at the end of the day, all of the people on the council need to look out for the best interests of the entire community, which is very important.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to get a couple of those things out, because I got to tell you, when I first started doing this radio show, I guess it's about a year now.
I was going to ask a question.
Just real quick, though, and I'll turn it over to you. I just remember being shocked when I looked up the city council, and there was no diversity in it. And I'm not a huge one who says diversity for diversity's sake. Right. Matter of fact, I'm probably the last person who says diversity for diversity's sake, to be very honest. I think the best person should do it.
Absolutely.
But I would find it I would be very hard pressed to think that there was no one diverse who's qualified to give that extra point of view. And I think it's important that there be representation like that.
And I think you bring up a good point in terms of qualified candidates. You need to find people that are qualified and quite frankly that are willing to put in the effort to do this. This is not easy. Running for office, putting yourself out there for blog ridicule and just the time and effort and trying to raise money for campaigns. It takes a special person to do that, and it's not for everybody. So I think that's one reason why you don't see a lot of people that run for public office.
Yeah, and that's part of, Tim and I, we held a couple of debates on here, and one of them, they were just throwing mud at each other, and we sat here and we're like, stop it, guys. This isn't the schoolyard. People are sick and tired of that. Stand up and say, this is what I'm all about. So have you faced some negative criticism? You mentioned blogs and things like that.
I think think we all face a little bit of negative criticism, but for the most part, I think people have been very positive and very receptive to my message and receptive to my campaign. And it's just been great talking to people in the community and getting their perspective on, the issues that are important to them.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was going to ask, when was the last time there was a woman on the council? I was curious. My personal, have there been women?
Yes, there have.
Okay.
There have been some.
There's only 2 running now, right?
There are 2 running right now out of the slate of 10. And the last few women that served on Elgin City Council would have been Brenda Rogers, who served a few years ago, and Ruth Munson was on council.
Okay. Sure, we know Ruth. That's how we met. We met you through Ruth. Okay.
And Marie Yearman, who of course has passed on, but Marie served quite a long term on the city council and was very well liked in the community.
So, can I ask a question? Why are you running? That's a good question.
That's a good question.
I was waiting for him to ask it, but
once again, if you're expecting a good question from me, you're going to be waiting a long time.
Why are you running? It sounds.
I believe I can bring a new vision and fresh perspective to the city of Elgin. I think Elgin is a really neat place to live. I think it's a great place to raise a family. I understand it. It certainly has its challenges. I'm not going to sit here and paint Elgin as the perfect place. Elgin, just like any other community of its size, has its challenges. But I'm an independent voice for the community, and I think that I can help move us forward and do some good things in our community based on some of the experiences that I've had.
So as long as you open up Pandora's box, what are the 3 biggest challenges Elgin's going to face? If you get elected councilwoman, what would be the 3 biggest challenges you think you have to face in the next 4 years?
Well, some of the priorities that I've identified, first, being fiscally responsible, using our money wisely. Everyone has had to cut back. A lot of people that I've talked to who were once 2-income households are down to 1-income household. And you all have to make sacrifices. And I think the city has done a good job in terms of, making some cuts. They've cut some positions. They've made a lot of adjustments over the past few years to make up for some revenue shortfalls. But I think that's going to continue to be a problem, and we're going to have to face the music on a lot of the revenue shortfalls that we're having across the board, whether it be general fund, whether it be riverboat. It's certainly going to affect a lot of the things that we're doing. So we have to make some tough choices and reprioritize what we're doing, make better use of technology, consolidate services, whatever we need to do to think outside of the box to try to be a little bit more wise with our money that we're spending. The other issue, which is not unique to Elgin, is bringing businesses and jobs to our community. And, when we put people back to work, they pay their bills, very simply. And the first bill that they pay is generally their mortgage.
They pay taxes.
They pay taxes. They go out to eat, and it's a cycle that really keeps the whole economy going. And I bring up the fact of bringing people paying their mortgages because of the whole foreclosure crisis that's going on in our community and across the nation. And it's certainly going to have a negative effect on our community when we have a lot of foreclosed homes in our community, a lot of vacant homes. Vacant homes become a haven for illegal activity, and it's a threat to our neighborhood. So it's something we should definitely be concerned about. But bringing more businesses to our community that are going to employ Elgin residents and add to our tax base, that's very important to me. I think it's an important thing that we need to look at. And probably the third thing that would be on my list is maintaining our aging infrastructure, our streets, our sewers, and maintaining our core services, those being police, fire, and public works. Those are the lifeblood of our community. They maintain the safety and integrity of our community, and it's important that people feel safe and that those services are maintained.
Are there any particular services that the city can use to generate additional revenue. As an example, when they opened the riverboat, they got rid of the vehicle stickers. Is there any thought about using that as a source of revenue to help take care of that aging infrastructure?
As far as bringing back vehicle stickers?
Just as an example, are there some sources of revenue that you guys, that as a city council person, you would look at to help raise the money to take care of that aging infrastructure?
I think the revenue is there in terms of, right now we use the riverboat to fund a large portion of our capital projects. And we just need to make sure that we prioritize that revenue within the riverboat, which we have done, to make sure that we can do those capital projects. In terms of additional revenue, I go back to bringing more businesses to our community that are going to add to our tax base. I think that's going to be the key for several things, adding to our tax base and bringing jobs to our community.
So you're definitely in the camp of we need to raise our revenue by growing business as opposed to asking our constituents, our residents, to pony up more money to do it.
I think it's a tough environment to go back to people and say, after they've already faced a 66% income tax increase at the state level. I'm not going to say that it would be really hard to do that, and I think we need to exhaust all of our options before we even consider anything like that. I'm just not a big fan of that right now.
Yeah,
that is the entire. That is every resident of Elgin clapping for you right now, hearing that you don't want to reach into their pocket.
I clip coupons at home. I don't know about anybody else. I know the city of Elgin can't clip coupons, but what's more applause? Well, what's interesting is, from talking to people, what they've done is, hey, instead of eating out, maybe twice a week like they did before, maybe they're only eating out once a month. Instead of going out,
take that button away from that guy, would you?
Instead of going out 2 and 3 times a week, maybe they're going out 2 or 3 times a month.
Yeah.
So, it's something that we all need to be cognizant of, and people are concerned about taxes and fees, and I think the city has to definitely demonstrate, before they go to the citizens and say, hey, we need more money, that they've exhausted all other options.
Did you hear that, Senator Noland?
Yeah. This is like Jerry Seinfeld and Superman, where they mention Superman in every Seinfeld episode. Every episode we mention Nolan.
Well,
you ever notice that? Everything he somehow keeps coming around.
But it's the anti-Superman.
Always has to do with taxes.
Yeah, it usually does because he's full.
And you never see Superman or Mike Nolan in the same room together.
No.
So I'm kind of wondering.
It's interesting. It's a good point, Dave.
That's because Superman has X-ray vision, will never enter the room.
I don't want to. I know everybody, and it seems like everybody comes on here wants to talk about illegal immigration, so I'm not even going to talk about that. But I do have a question that I think kind of indirectly affects Elgin. What do you think about this U46 debacle?
The lawsuit?
Yeah, well, this whole thing about 46 and losing the state funding and laying off 1,400 teachers, and how does it? I mean, really, what can Elgin do about that? Elgin's the main district. I mean, the district serves Elgin more than anybody. I know it serves parts of Streamwood, where I live, but I'm in the other district. I'm in 51 or 15 or 211 or over there. So I'm in Schaumburg, which may not be Senator Nolan has his way when they do the redistricting. I may end up there. I'm just curious, do you have any? Because that is a big issue. Has it been an issue with the candidates? Because you do have a say in that. I mean, you can rattle the state legislators.
And I definitely, what I've heard from people and what I certainly recognize is that the city has to be a partner with U46. And one of the big things that I hear from residents when I'm speaking to them is they are concerned about the school district and the city's image or people's perception of our community. One of the first things that people look at when they move to a community is the quality of the schools and the school district. And unfortunately, U46 has taken a lot of heat, and some of it is probably justified, but I think there are a lot of good things that are going on in the district that you just don't necessarily hear about as much. But we have to address the fact that we have to work in consort with the district in terms of improving our district and improving the perception that people have about our district in order to draw more people here. Because if you have a family and you're hearing or reading that U46 is a poor school district or that it underperforms, then really, what are your chances of drawing people here?
I agree. When I moved in where I live in Fort, I lived there 13 years now. And I said, I'm moving to Stream, but everybody was like, oh, you don't want to go in that school district. Oh, that's the best. And then I went, no, I'm in this other school district. But I bought my house because obviously the school district was a big thing. But I had a park in my backyard, and I had all the activities for the kids. Mm-hmm. I had young daughters at the time, and I wanted to make sure that they had it. But that's a big thing. One more question on that subject, if I may. What do you think of the governor's plan about consolidating? Bringing the districts down. Have you seen that?
I've seen that, and I think for some of these smaller districts, it really does make sense. You get better economies of scale. When you look at that, and you've got some of these districts that have where it's just an elementary school district, and then you've got a separate high school district. Look at all the duplication of services. You've got duplication of administration, of superintendents who are certainly making quite a bit of money in Illinois.
Some of them, yes.
Some of them are. And you've got duplication of administration. You've got duplication of ground services and janitorial services. It only makes sense to really, kind of put some of those together. But I know it's not going to be easy. You're going to have people kicking and screaming as they look at doing that.
Taking the other side of the coin there's maybe some that are too small that need to be consolidated. Is there any thought about the fact that U46 is the second largest school district in the city, maybe is too big to be managed by one group?
I know that's come up a lot, and I'm not sure. I think it would be really interesting if, and I know that issue has come up before, if they did separate or try to downsize, so to speak, how that would be done. I think that, again, I don't think U46's problems are because it's too large. I think it's an issue in a lot of cases of funding and prioritizing expenditures.
Yeah, I tend to think you're right. I think anything that's mismanaged, you can mismanage 2 people just as well as you can mismanage 200 people. So
right, and especially at the school district level, they are so bound by federal guidelines and state guidelines. A lot of things are kind of out of their hands.
If you become a counselor, are you going to have something to say, or is that going to be part of your scope of things? Is that something that a councilman does? Let me ask that. I've heard it mentioned on the show a few times.
Typically not. Okay. Obviously, the school district has their board, and there are some great people running for school district board. People like Gary Percy and Tracy Ellis, I think would be great additions to the school board. And, those people I think are, really have their pulse on what's going on in the community. And should the school board and the city council work together on issues to benefit the community? Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think people should know a little bit more about you and maybe your qualifications to be involved in this position.
Sure.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you've got a Bachelor of Arts in Government from the University of Notre Dame.
Go Irish.
As well as a Master's of Public Administration from Northern Illinois. Is that also correct?
Go Huskies.
and Urban Management. So this is not something that and sort of like Tim's in my cases, we're small business owners who didn't like the direction things were going, so we're, sort of without any educational background flapping our gums. You actually have studied this. Could you tell us a little bit about your educational background and how you think that'll be an advantage to the city of Elgin?
Well, good point. Yes, I do have a bachelor's degree. And
applause. I made a good point. You are the first guest to ever say that, but I'm sorry. Continue with yours. Go ahead.
In addition to my educational background, I have over 16 years of local government management experience. I worked actually for the city of Elgin for 9 years, and prior to that worked for the city of Kalamazoo, Michigan. Very similar community in size and demographics to Elgin for about 7 years prior to moving to Elgin. So between those the education and my work experience, I have a pretty good grasp, I think, on local government issues and understand, the intricacies of what goes on and why things happen and how things happen. So, not a whole lot of learning curve there in terms of moving to the council level.
Excellent.
Yeah, the council's kind of more of an advisory position, though, isn't it? It's pretty
Yes.
much, you're not a full-time position. It's more of an honorarium that you get. I think you get an expense account, and it's not a full-time position. It's more you're sitting in advisory, and you have a village manager and a lot of employees in Elgin. I didn't realize how big Elgin was, and you have a very competent city manager, from what I understand, and a police chief and a fire chief.
Elgin is a full-service community, and the role of the council is basically to set the policy and the direction and the tone of the community. And obviously, we have a council manager form of government where we employ a city manager, as you mentioned, Sean Stiegel, who is responsible for carrying out the goals of the city council, what has been set in terms of the policy and the direction for the community.
What is it may sound like an ignorant question, but when you have the city manager, are you guys in essence sort of like a board of directors that oversees that person who would be the chief operating officer, more or less?
If you want to look at it from that standpoint, yes.
Okay.
So I would say the mayor makes recommendations of appointees for certain positions, and the council approves them. There's certain budget things that you guys vote, men and women vote on.
Actually, the entire council makes.
They do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Makes those
They
recommendations.
just appointed a new fire chief within the last few months.
That particular
position
is the police chief and the fire chief are actually appointed or hired directly by the city manager. The
council
positions.
Approval? Do you have to approve it? No.
I'm sure that
Okay.
they probably give a little nod. And
Sure.
In terms of the city council does hire the city manager.
Okay.
So it is. I mean, it's kind of a hands-on. It's
Yeah.
not really like a non-for-profit board where we meet once a month. They meet regularly, and they have a lot of say in what's going on. What would be your three major accomplishments that you'd like to do as a council member? That's a good question.
Good question. Three major accomplishments.
Want us to take a break and come back?
Sure.
No,
I'm getting the minutes. Actually, I would. One of the things I'd like to see is, and I know the city is moving towards this, but I'd like to see better community engagement. I attend a lot of different community meetings, and I applaud the people that come out to those and that are involved. But to be quite honest, it's the same people all the time, and God bless the people for participating. It's great that they're active, but I really want to see some more people at the table that aren't there, but are probably in the background a lot of times, at least from what I'm hearing and from talking to folks that are have concerns and have legitimate issues, but are they coming and participating in some of the meetings? No, they're not. So I would really like to see better participation on behalf of our residents, and whatever we need to do to try to get that, I'm for it. Probably one of the other things I'd like to see is, looking at, again, how we can save more money. When I was in Kalamazoo, Michigan, we instituted something called Reducing the Cost of Government Services, and we had an employee incentive program where if employees came up with money-saving ideas on how we can do things better operationally at the city level, and it was implemented, then they got a percentage of the cost savings. And I think the percentage of the cost savings was maybe like 5 or 10%. So, if you recommended something that would save the city $10,000, and you maybe got 10% of it if the city, enacted it. So that's $1,000 for you. I think that's a pretty good incentive for people to come, be creative about
Absolutely.
coming up with ways to save money.
And I think we need to tell everyone that the official election day is Tuesday, April 5th.
Yes.
Early voting started yesterday and runs through the 31st. And for all our listeners who would like to reach out to you, they can reach out to you at Powell, that's with 2 L's, for Elgin at gmail.com. They can also find you at www.powellforelgin.com. And, of course, you're on Facebook and Twitter and all that good stuff as well.
I'm not always good about tweeting.
I've never tweeted. Never.
Yes, you have. You mean on the internet?
Yeah, I don't even know what that's supposed to mean, Tim.
Okay.
Was I insulted? I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, it's okay. 5 minutes. We'll ask you again. So do you want to give us a final pitch? We're going to have to go to break, and you want to say why people should vote for you?
Sure. I think Elgin's a great community. I think it has a lot to offer. I think it has its challenges, but I think it has a greater number of opportunities. And I believe the Elgin residents should vote for me because I feel I'm qualified for this job. I'm committed. I'm willing to listen to their concerns, and I'm prepared to lead this community through some of the challenges that we're currently facing. And I'm an independent voice, and I think that's most desperately needed on our council, that you have someone who can think independently and is not tied to, any certain factions on our board right now. And I can honestly say that, and I think people can appreciate that. And I ask for your vote on April 5th.
You got a great resume.
Thank
you. Got a really
you.
Cool resume.
I wish I had a resume at all. That's awesome.
One of the things, rather quickly, I've served as president of our homeowners association for the last 6 years over in College Green, and that is perfect training ground, I think, for being a city council person, because if you've ever been to a homeowners association meeting, patience of Job, and
I don't see any scarring either.
A lot of makeup.
I thought you were a masochist when you said you wanted to run for city council.
So yeah.
I wonder if Joe would ever run for a councilman.
He doesn't have the patience.
No.
So
she does.
That and a lot of the other activities I've been involved in. I'm actively involved at my church, so a shout out to Progressive Baptist Church and our pastor, and just again having the ability and to listen to people and to work through issues. Being a homeowners association president is not always, it's not a glamorous job.
No,
people don't come to meetings because they want to tell you how good of a job you're doing. They come because they're ticked off about something.
Well, and that's who probably shows up at the city council meetings, the ones that are open to the public and all that. And you're certainly going to hear everything that you're doing wrong in that position, unfortunately.
Oh yes.
So.
Yes.
Well, thank you. We have to go to break, and thank you for coming out. Appreciate you taking the time.
Great. Thanks for having me.
April 5th.